What is going on, everyone? It is Mike, and welcome back to Tech 24/7 TV. Now, with 2019 coming to close and 2020 new decade, hey, right around the corner, I thought it might be appropriate to kind of give you a peek into how I use my iPhone on a daily basis and how it helps me stay productive, really running my personal life, running my professional life, and then also here running the channel. So I use the iPhone 11 Pro Max, the big phone, in midnight green and 512 gigs of storage. Now, I got this phone a few months ago, obviously when the iPhone 11 launched. It's my second year in a row getting the 512 gig, and I would say that this is probably going to be the final year that I would stay with the storage tier unless there's some significant kind of advancement in camera technology that will require me getting, staying at the storage level. So let me explain. My thought process was that I was going to get the 512 gig or remain with the 512 gig storage tier based on the triple camera setup. Figure if it's recording 3 lenses at once or 3 video streams at once based on the on-screen demo that they had with Filmic Pro, that it might be beneficial for me to have a higher tier storage phone because I'm going to be using my phone for a lot of things. And really, as it turned out, that was not the case. So one, I think as of when I checked yesterday, which was Christmas, the Filmic app for using the 3 different cameras was not available, and it's supposed to be available this year. So, that's still not available. 2, I really don't use my iPhone to record a lot of video like I did in the beginning of this channel, where that was kind of one of the main reasons to get that higher storage. I use the camera that you are watching this on right now, which is the Sony a7 III. With that said, I think that really the question is, do many people need, or does anyone even really need, an iPhone with 512 gigs of storage? So I think the answer to that question is probably going to be mainly no. What I would ask myself if I was, getting a new iPhone right now is saying, 1, am I going to be doing a lot of video recording, right? Because that's going to be like one of the things that uses the most amount of bandwidth or most amount of storage on the device. 2, do I not use some type of, cloud storage, either whether it be for photos, video and photos, or even for other types of content? And 3, what does it cost from a peace of mind perspective to go from the 256 gig iPhone to the 512 gigabyte iPhone? Now, I am on the Apple iPhone upgrade program, which is, I think it's a $7 or $8 difference per month. Now, if I think about $7 or $8, I'm going to keep this phone 12 months. At the end of 12 months, that's $84. So is $84 worth it to me for peace of mind to go from 256 to 512? I think it is. Right now, I only have like 115 or 120 gigs of storage used on my iPhone. So I don't know. I think I could definitely go down to 256. I would not be able to cut, to the lower model, which is 64 gigs. That wouldn't cut it for me. But all that with the iPhone, I use this phone pretty much as my point and shoot camera for 60% of the time. So this phone is, obviously it's with me all the time. I do have a phone that I use for work, which is the Samsung Galaxy Note 10. I really like this phone a lot. I do use it, just not as much as I use my iPhone, but my iPhone is my primary device. If someone were to ask for my number, they would get the number to my iPhone and not to this Note device. But all that said, what is on my iPhone and what allows me to remain productive? Let's talk about that. So we're going to organize discussion kind of in a few different ways. So one, I am not going to talk through many of the default apps that come on your iPhone, not because they're not good or not because they are horrible, but really they're default apps. And if you already have an iPhone, you know largely what they do. I will go into a little bit of detail on shortcuts and also on the home app. That's gonna be the first part. And the second thing is that really we're just gonna go page by page on how I have my iPhone set up. The first page is for what I use the most. Second page is for what I either use second most or things I wanna use more often in my life. Third page is for folders, and all of these folders are organized alphabetically. So even inside the app, I organize it alphabetically. So a little anal retentive, if you know what I mean. Anyways, so starting here at the very beginning, I have messages up top in the top left-hand corner, which is the way that I communicate with 95% of the people that I talk to. Everyone in my family, I've moved them off of Android or some other different operating system onto iOS simply for the integration. And really that's what keeps me, one of the main driving factors which keeps me on iOS at this point is almost everyone I know has an iPhone. Almost everyone I know has not just an iPhone, but they have multiple Apple devices. And so the benefits of having the integration between your iPhone, your Mac, your iPad, your Apple Watch, whatever the case may be, is highly enticing and very much kind of a sticking point, or pun intended, I guess, a sticking point, allowing you to kind of stay within the iOS ecosystem. So that's one of my favorite things. Moving on to my second app here is going to be Spark Email. Spark Email is my email client of choice. So I probably run the gamut, like many of you, using different email addresses or different email apps, looking for the holy grail of email clients. And I thought I found it with Dropbox. What was it called? So Dropbox had an email, there was an email client that Dropbox bought several years ago. They integrated into Dropbox to some degree, some of the technology, but integrates several different email clients. It looks really good. It gives you a lot of options in terms of notifications, swipe through preferences, kind of one-click options. And you can go ahead and integrate kind of these different apps as well, like OmniFocus, which is something that I use to manage kind of all my tasks and activities. In addition to that, so it's really good. I don't use it I don't use it to integrate calendars or to view all my calendars, and that is the calendar app from Apple. I do use Fantastical to capture those events, but I don't use it to view there. I'm not really a fan of the way that it looks. My weather app of choice is going to be Carrot Weather, which I am a huge fan of, and really funny. It is a paid app. I think it's $4.99. I subscribe to, I think they're tier 2 or tier 3 level notifications where you can get like lightning strike notifications and a couple other things, which I find interesting to view. And you can tailor Carrot Weather's personality to depending on how you look at life. And you can go from no politics, centrist, conservative, libertarian, communist. It's a nice way to brighten your day, in my opinion. So kudos to you. Next up is going to be my password management choice of app. It's just going to be 1Password. Now, I've been using 1Password for maybe the better part of 10 years, always as a standalone app. A couple years ago, I upgraded to the subscription service when they first launched it. And now I actually get it for free because I subscribe to Eero Secure Plus, which is the advanced subscription service that Eero offers with their mesh networking products that I have in my house here. So I get it for free, but I still love it. And I think it's probably one of the better meaning like kind of least amount of friction with using your phone and your, and integrating your passwords within iOS and the Mac. So I like it a lot. Day one is going to be my journaling app of choice. So I have several different notebooks here in day one, depending on what I'm talking about or how I'm feeling. I would go ahead and how's my day start? How did my day end? Those as kind of bookends to my day, and really just kind of capture my thoughts throughout the day into this for a little bit of reflection later on when I remember that I have to do it. Overcast right now is going to be my podcast app of choice. I use that today, but I am moving to Pocketcasts. So I do plan to make that move sometime early in the new year. Reason being because Pocketcasts is multi-platform and I have it on my Android phone, my Note 10, and they also play video. So there are a few podcasts that I watch and subscribe to that are video. Then we have the app I use to go ahead and track all my timers and kind of what I would call things that are automated, but that are done on a daily basis. So really kind of reminding me to take my vitamins, remind me when my cold brew is going to be done, when I need to cancel a subscription for something that is in the App Store, that is going to all be inside of Do. Next up is going to be my Twitter client of choice. It's going to be Tweetbot. I like the look and feel of it. I don't like that Twitter limits the developer API where I can't get notifications from Tweetbot like I used to, but I do have Twitter installed on my device where if I get a notification, I can open it in Twitter and then find that notification or find that, that tweet inside of Tweetbot. Next up on there is going to be shortcuts. So shortcuts I talked a little bit about earlier this summer when Apple integrated shortcuts into iOS 13. And this is really, I think, probably the way to automate and simplify a lot of the things that I do daily or frequently on my device. Getting weather reports, turning on my VPN, helping me fall asleep at night, kind of starting my meditation, all things that are in there, sexy time, which is funny. Getting work done, time to shred, things like when I connect to the gym network, turn my phone on silent, go ahead and start a playlist and start a workout. So those things are all in there. This has really helped me simplify, many of the things that I do. Audible, which is my reading app of choice. I am very much someone who can read in multi-mode. So whether I'm reading a book, reading on a screen, or listening to it, I kind of work well with any one of those. But I probably prefer the most is listening to an audiobook while kind of doing different things. It just allows me to consume more content in times where I normally wouldn't have that opportunity. Notability is my app of choice for taking handwritten apps on my iPad. I do have it on here on the home screen, which I use to search through those notes very often. And Notion is really kind of hard to explain for me because I'm not, so it's on my home screen because I want to use it more often. And really it's like a database app. It allows you to kind of go ahead and create and maintain custom databases to hold information that you find valuable. So like here I have set up like this right here. This is a Kanban board for, you know, all the videos that I have in production right now. And so as they move, I would take it from ideation and then move it over to research as I start going to the different place. You can set it up really however you want. It's completely greenfield, open space. When you first get into it, they do give you suggestions and there are templates that you can get into. This template that I'm using here came from, oh gosh, what's his name? Here it is, from Thomas Frank. So he had a good video, which I'll link below in the description. He will be more elegant in describing how it is and how he uses it. I am just getting into it. I would say I'm a complete amateur, especially compared to his level of discipline in the Notion app. There's a few other channels I'll go ahead and link in the description below as well, but it's a good app nonetheless. So that wraps up the first page. Here on the bottom, I have my phone app because I still use my phone as a phone every day. I'm probably on conference calls 3 to 4 hours a day kind of. So that is going to be in the bottom left-hand corner. I have Drafts. Drafts is the app that I use to go ahead and capture on all kind of quick text. And as a starting point, then I can export that text from Drafts to anywhere else. And there's a lot of automations that you can go in here to, to use. Then my productivity app of choice, or my to-do list of choice, is going to be Omnifocus. So I think at this point, I really need to dive back into kind of the discipline of using Omnifocus or getting things done, which in my mind, they go hand in hand in this reference, because I'd like to be more organized, would like to use Omnifocus more effectively, and I would just like to do it more. So here, this is really going to be my app of choice for GTD related activities. So next here on the second page is going to be my home app. So my home app, what I did was in each of these different rooms and set aspirational photos, let's just say, for different rooms. I have different photos for the family room, these things I just found online, and it really just has it's nice visually to kind of set each room apart on there, and hallway, living room. So that's a nice touch. My son's room, which is literally never this clean. So next on here is going to be Double. Double is an app that allows you to capture video simultaneously from your front-facing camera and your rear-facing camera, and then integrate both those video streams into a single video. So it'll actually combine them together. It's kind of useful for social media, kind of useful for Instagram, things like that. Kind of gives you that perspective of here, see what I see, or this is what I'm looking at. Halide is the next app, which I used for, I think it's going to be my third-party camera app of choice. It's got a nice UI. It's clean. In my experience, it produces good results, and you can use all 3 cameras within this third-party app. It's probably the app that I would use. It's my default third-party app when I want to use it. So we have Tricks is what I use to go ahead and track all of my kind of habit-forming activities. So, closing my activity rings, making sure that I burn my calories, reading for 20 minutes every day, sleeping 7 hours right now, 10 minutes of meditation, and then recording my weight. So those are the things that I'm keeping track for kind of on my basis or on an everyday basis. And you can add different pages or different tabs, let's just say, in here. So I can then have another tab. Buffer is an app that I use for social media and allows you to publish to multiple platforms at once. WaterMinder is the app that I use to go ahead and track my water consumption, which is something, actually says I'm thirsty here, so hold on a second. Yeah. Headspace, which is the app that I use for meditation. Over, which is an app that I purchased earlier this year. This is an annual subscription, but this is, I would say it's kind of like Photoshop, not necessarily as full featured as Photoshop, but it allows you to go ahead and do some pretty interesting things for social media. And it's actually the app that I use for all my thumbnails. Music, well, you do use Apple Music, and that's my app of choice. Next up is going to be Toolbox Pro. So Toolbox Pro is the app that I use. This is kind of a more robust add-on to shortcuts, allows you to go ahead and get very granular and create shortcuts. There's even predetermined shortcuts in there. Like here's one that I use. So get with a heat map. If I show shortcuts a picture, all right, using machine learning, tell me what is going to be the heat map, or map the places of interest that people's eyes are going to be drawn to looking at this photo. That's really important. I used to use VSCO probably about a year and a half ago I think at this point, I haven't been using it that much, and I don't know if I would continue to renew my subscription after that. CES 2020. So I am going to CES in maybe about a week and a half here, and I will be covering a lot of content. So if you are interested in some of that CES content, let me know what you want to see down in the comments below. But this is the app really tells me who's going there, where they're located at in the different convention center, and how to get there. Very simple. MasterClass is a app that I use for kind of self-improvement, self-learning. So right now I am on a Ron Howard class on filmmaking, as I did not go to school for this. Brainstorming are the apps that I use to go ahead and kind of, well, it's brainstorming, but so there is MindNode Plus. MindNode Plus is a mind mapping application. How I would kind of import, I put a topic in here and I would say the topic, and then I'm going to go ahead and do branches there for the different areas or kind of aspects that I want to cover on this topic. So that's how I'm going to use this. And then once that's done, I use OmniOutliner to go ahead and to organize it. So to kind of put a little bit more structure into it, kind of something that's just more free form at that point. Cameras. So here are all the different camera apps that I use. I would say probably the most useful is going to be, the Moment app. So I have the anamorphic lens from Moment, and the Moment app de-squeezes it. EXIF Viewer. So if you ever want to view EXIF data, so that's the metadata that is written into a photo. That's very helpful. FOCOS, FOCOS. I would probably just call it Focus, but FOCOS is if you want to capture, edit, and manipulate photos that are taken with using portrait mode. Filmic Pro, that's a video app that I use to go ahead and capture video. Very customizable, very flexible. That's the app I was referring to, talking about if you want to capture 3 video streams from all 3 cameras. Also, you can set controls, pinpoint white balance. It's very full featured. It is expensive. I think it's $20 for that app. And then the remote for it if you want to control it on a different device. GoPro for my GoPro, Sony Imaging Edge for my camera that I'm using, Procam, which is another app that I use, Ronin for my gimbal, and Spectre, which is for low light photography. Yeah, I think it's low light photography. Yeah, for low light photography. That's there. Next up is entertainment. So I then have Apple TV. Everything all in here is pretty self-explanatory. Finance, all the apps I use to manage the financial aspects of my life. Games, right now, I think my favorite game that I'm playing is going to be What the Golf. That's really fun. Thanks, Holden, for recommending that. And I just downloaded Lego Builder's Journey, getting into that. Other than that, I love The Rooms, the Toy Maker's Mansion. That's actually very fun. So that's probably one of my favorite apps right now. More of a puzzle game, and I'm someone who likes puzzle games. And you cannot forget Asphalt Racing 9. Asphalt Racing 9 is my go-to app to play a racing game, for sure. Google is things that are all Google, but not related to YouTube. Health, all the health-related apps, ResearchKit, Beachbody On Demand, and HomeKit is where I have all the apps I would use that control some accessory that are in my house. Not necessarily HomeKit related, but I just call it HomeKit. Hue Lights is another app that I use. So it's not made by Hue, it's a third-party app. But what's cool about this is that you can dial in the color temperature that you want for certain lights. So these lights, daylight balance, which they actually are right now, I can dial them into a certain temperature and they will go ahead and go to that temperature, which is really helpful when filming video and trying to match lighting temperatures. Instagram, these are all the apps that I use with Instagram. So Boomerang to make boomerangs, Instagram obviously. I GTD Spark Camera, which is a really interesting one. Allows you to go ahead and make videos to go ahead and import into Instagram stories or other social platforms. OneBlocker is the app I use to block all the content or for content blocking. Backblaze, backup service. Eero, that's the app that I use, I was talking about earlier, for my mesh network. So that's provided by Eero, NordVPN, which we talked about earlier, and Speedtest. Music, inside of music, probably the most notable thing is going to be one, SongShift. SongShift allows you to import playlists from other music services into another music service. So if I was switching from Spotify to, let's just say, Apple Music or vice versa, or whatever the case is, I can go into SongShift and say, okay, this is what I want to go ahead and import. I want this playlist. This is the target service. This is the destination service. And this is the playlist that I want to copy over. So that's very helpful. Photo editing, Darkroom. Darkroom so I think I edit most of my photos inside of Lightroom. I would use Darkroom kind of infrequently when I mostly export things into Lightroom and then fix them. PhotoPills is actually a really interesting app. Now, let's just say you're going to be in New York City at 3 p.m. and you want to take a photo in a certain location, it's going to tell you what's going to the sun and reflections, shadows, what's that going to look like in that location at that time. So it's actually very, very cool. It tells you when, all the different, twilight, nautical twilight, sunrise, and what's the other one called? Sunset, maybe. So that's in there as well. So that's really good for photo planning or photography planning. So reading, I use Apollo as my app of choice. And I also use Pocket. Pocket allows me to go ahead and pull in many different, if I find an article, I want to save it for later and then store it into my Pocket list. For that is going to be fine. Social. So I have Discord in there. I haven't announced the Discord service yet, but I'm going to have a Discord for the channel where people can go ahead and talk about productivity, things of that nature. That's going to be in there. Video edits. So Wingman is an app that allows me to go ahead and integrates with my sound recorder, which I'm using right now. And it shows kind of real-time levels of what's being recorded, start, stop, rename the channels, or rename the audio. That's actually very helpful when recording by yourself. LumaFusion is an app I use to infrequently edit on my iPhone videos. I would use that, or iMovie. And Frame.io is a really good way of sharing projects with folks that either need to review it, either midstream, give you feedback, get some type of approval on how to move through. So as a independent video creator, you could use Frame.io with a client, send them, a kind of first draft of a video, and they can leave you feedback on, scene by scene, second by second along the timeline of how that looks. Wallpaper are the apps that I use for wallpaper. And I think right now my favorite is going to be Wally. That's going to be my favorite app of choice for wallpaper. And I will leave my favorite artist. His name is Artliner. A Artliner. Yeah. A Artliner. A Artliner. Many different ones. So YouTube are all the apps I use for managing YouTube, right? Not just YouTube, but then YouTube Studio, AdSense, vidIQ, and then Rebrandly, which is a URL shortener. And then Flow, which I have not even opened yet to see how it works. It's really just kind of a note-taking application. So that about wraps it up for me, folks. That is what is on my iPhone in 2019 and how I stay productive. Now, this is more than likely going to be my last video for 2019. I hope that you're going to stay with me in 2020. I got a lot of things planned. And, hey, we're going to start it off right with going to CES. I am Mike, and I will talk to you in the next one.